acceptable in your sight, for you are our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. The three marking points in the book of Mark. Mark begins with the story of Jesus and his birth. It ends with the crucifixion. And the turning point in the middle of the gospel is this strange miracle called the Transfiguration. Transfiguration. The figure is changed. It's an interesting miracle because it's a miracle not that Jesus does, but that happens to him. He is the one who is changed. He takes his three companions up on a mountaintop. Jesus did that on a regular basis. He liked to get away from the crowds and the constant everyday work of being the rabbi, and he liked to go aside to quiet places. He does this over and over again to pray, to be sustained in his spirit. So they go up on the mountaintop, and this very odd and wonderful and miraculous thing takes place. A great cloud encircles Jesus, and there are two figures who appear there with him. And they're not just any figures. They're the two most important figures in the whole Old Testament. Moses, the lawgiver, and Elijah, the great prophet. So symbolically, this means everything that the Jews believe, the law and the prophets, a summation of all of the teachings of the Hebrew faith. And Jesus is there with them, and they seem to be conversing with each other, talking in this cloud. Peter, who is kind of like me, he gets things wrong continually. He's well motivated. He says, "Oh, this is great. We'll just live up here. I'll build 3 little shacks, 3 little dwelling places, and one for Elijah and one for Moses and one for you, Jesus, and we'll just stay up on the mountaintop. This is great. No problems, no worries. Everything is going great, full of the Spirit. We'll just stay here." It's like us. We want to stay up on the mountaintop, don't we? Feel so good up there. He turns around and everything's gone. It was Jesus only. And then this wonderful and telling scene as they're coming down the mountain. They were all full of this. What could this possibly mean? And Jesus says, "Don't tell anybody about this until after the Son of Man is raised from the dead." Fantastic, fantastic vision. I love this passage because it was the first sermon that I had to write in seminary was on this passage. Dr. Edmund Steinley, the great professor who had been at Union Seminary for years and years, and he assigned me this text, and I worked and worked and worked and worked on it. And what I finally figured out after working on it for about a month was that I could never really figure it out. It's the only time in the New Testament it happens. The only time the word transfiguration is used in the New Testament. We don't know exactly what it means. Dr. D.T. Davies, the great scholar from Edinburgh, says it means a change in form but not substance. How does that sound? Sounds like something they say at Carolina. I don't know what it is. Well, yeah, that sounds good, but I don't know what it means. Change in form. His form was changed. He became glittering white, cleaner than any washer could clean it, cleaner than Tide could get it or anything else. It's bright clean. And then this cloud and these voices and these figures from history. It's the turning point. It's the turning point. Up till then, Jesus had stayed up in northern Israel where the crowds came out to see him. He was greeted. They were treated well. Everything was going good. He was paying the apportionment. It was all happy. He could have stayed there. But he chose to turn and head towards Jerusalem, where the principalities and powers lay in wait for him. He chose to not stay up on the mountain on the spiritual high, but descend into the world of tough, everyday, give and take politics of his day. Coming down the mountain, he says, now don't say anything until after the Son of Man is raised from the dead. And I say, what does that mean? Son of Man raised from the dead? It would have to be revealed to them. This is a change moment. Changing from the pastoral, beautiful ministry in the north to that confrontational ministry in the city. It's a change moment for Jesus because he is changed before them, becomes this glittering white figure in a robe. It's a change moment for the disciples because coming down the mountain, they start to think about, what does it mean to die and rise again? Wait a minute, that hadn't been what we were talking about. We've been talking about the kingdom coming and chasing the Romans out and setting up the new temple. Everything was going to be great. Change is coming. This is the sign of the change. I've been thinking a lot about change recently. The Alban Institute, which is kind of like the Harvard of studying churches, says that 80% of what happens in a local church is beyond your control. If the plant closes down and the people move out of town, the church can't control that. If the neighborhood changes, the church can't control that. We're in a growth phase here in Fayetteville. New people coming, the BRAC process. That's something that we didn't make happen, but we're happy that all the new people are here. Welcome. Welcome to our visitors. Welcome to those who are coming. We happen to have a gorgeous building, but it's 100 years old. And that means that we have to spend a significant amount of money on repairing it. If you're a 20-year-old church and you've just paid off your first mortgage, you're in great shape. You don't have any debt. You can give the preacher a raise. We've just finished rewiring. You can't see it, but the lights are brighter. We've rewired the entire over the sanctuary, and those wires were only 100 years old. Thank God we haven't caught on fire. Next, we're going to repair the steeple. If anybody would like to give the money for that, there might be a naming opportunity there. The biblical paradigm, the biblical model, is that change comes, and when it comes, it's a big change. We like to think that change comes incrementally, just a little bit at a time. But in fact, change comes usually in a big way.